My name is Nicholas Paburius Wilde.
The Wildes? That can't be right. All the Wildes are dead.
Missing. Technically presumed dead. Butchered by what the ZPD liked to call a politically motivated assassination. But the assassins weren't looking for us. They were only interested in my parents.
Us.
Us. A younger me and my little sister, Neveen. I didn't call the police. Police were for small things, like annoying protesters outside of the gates, or a sound in the middle of the night. For something tangible, my father had told me to call a friend of the family.
They're in the house, Papa. Please hurry.
You would know him as Mr. Big. Mr. Big carted us off that night, before the police were even called. He assured us that he would do everything in his power to find out who did it, and make them pay. As young as I was, a part of me believed he meant helping the ZPD in their investigation, even if that naivety was short-lived. In the end, on both legal and not-so-legal fronts, nothing came of it. With or without his help, our parents were dead. Neveen didn't take it well. She didn't speak for days, weeks, months wandering around the mansion alone, looking lost. Big decided to keep us close at paw, rather than sending us to a safe house. Not a lot of mammals are brave enough to try to breach security comprised of the largest predators in the world. And I wasn't helping her, because I needed help myself. I just kept pushing at Papa for more information, demanding to know why he wasn't doing anything. Pretty typical example of the blame game on my part. All of which he tolerated with a fatherly benevolence.
You know what happened. Tell me, Papa.
Why didn't you?
When my sister did talk, it was to ask me why I let it happen. Why I had let our parents die.
Answer me!
You were just a kid. How could she expect you to stop what happened?
Because I made a promise I wasn't able to keep. My father was always big on being able to defend yourself and those around you. From a young age, he started to teach me to do just that.
It's heavy.
Yes, that's what makes it invincible. I'm going to let you have it, so that you can defend your family, for in the end, that's all that really matters.
I was always closest with my sister, so in typical big brother fashion, as soon as I thought I was tough, after a few lessons with my father, I bragged. It's not hard to convince a young vixen that her older brother is the strongest mammal alive.
So, you promised her you would protect... who? Everybody?
Kids. We all say and do stupid things when we're young. Most of the time, it doesn't come back to bite you in the ass as hard as it did mine. She blamed me for our parents' death, and at that age, I believed it. I'm a little more mature now, though not much. And I know she was pushing her anger at me because she couldn't aim it towards the mammals that murdered our parents. But at the time, I believed it, that it was my fault, that I'd failed them.
Oh, Nick.
Don't. What happens when you convince a kid that it was his own weakness that killed those he loved? I don't think it was her intent, but it was the result of her anger. Before long, I was able to convince Big that I needed to continue the training my father had started, by which I meant that I needed teachers, sparring partners, a gym. I admit that I took advantage of his desire to help me cope, and ended up with the best the mob's substantial money could buy. Still don't exactly feel bad about it, to be honest. I trained constantly. Stupidly at first. I was belligerent and angry, telling every instructor that was presented to me that they were teaching me wrong because they weren't teaching me like my father. Still, again, I learned. This went on for years, during which Neveen and I drifted apart. I didn't notice it, because I had convinced myself that everything I was doing was for her. Weeks passing by, not even realizing that we weren't even seeing each other. When we did, there was always cold resentment. You alright, Neveen?
I'm fine, Nicholas.
Maybe somewhere along the way, her anger was less about our parents and more about the brother who abandoned her. I'm not sure. I just know that one day, Papa came into my room and asked where my sister was. I never saw her again until today.
Can't sleep? Still scared of the dark?
It's stupid.
Hey, know how I got this?
Finally managed to hustle Dad, did you?
Yep, got a lot stronger too. I told Dad I'd get even stronger, because nothing can hurt us, or anyone we care about. As long as I'm here, Neen. I promise.
Thanks, Nicky.
After she left, Papa kept tabs on her and kept me as informed as he decided I needed to be, while providing me with just enough information so that I knew she wasn't in danger. without allowing me the option of going after her. As you can imagine, that didn't go over very well at first. At that point, I was either tired of the anger, or I was tired of yelling, because I had learned that there was no point. Gotta give Papa credit. A lot of credit. I called them some vile things in anger. Things I would have had most other mammals misplaced. A rat like you should have told your overgrown dogs to stay away from us. I was 17, I think, when he started having me working with the bears. It made perfect sense to me at the time. It was his burden. I was draining his hours and resources. He should get something back. And I didn't mind at all. I needed to put all of the impractical training to good use, right? Get into some real fights. And what better way to do that than to meet some less than reputable characters who were being uncooperative. I found out later that he only sent me to acquaintances of his that were already dirty. No innocent shopkeepers, no mothers, no goody-goody mammals who were just mixed in bad business. No, I was sent to other members of the family who had gotten out of line. Bookies who didn't pay their till, cops on the take who got too greedy. A few cases of excessive violence in the neighborhood. Those were my favorites. The violent ones, they never came quietly, and I was very, very angry at the time.
He made you an enforcer for the mob?
In a way, he was giving that anger a direction, pointing me towards mammals who deserved it. It was easy enough, at first. The first few never saw me coming, big or small. A rat with a pair of lynx bodyguards, a lion who was convinced he was unstoppable, a giraffe.
Giraffe? How did you even...
Like chopping down a tree. They're really tall, but their legs are just begging to be taken out from under them. As long as you avoid getting kicked. Even the bears were wary of the kick. Hard to get the drop on them too. Good ears, wide range of vision, high head, meaning they can see you coming. But once you have them on the ground... What, you asked?
Go on, but not about giraffes.
It seemed to work well enough at first, for a few years, until I was legally old enough to drink. Don't look surprised. Life in the mob isn't like the movies. They don't run around like yahoos, breaking laws just because they can. At least, not as I saw it growing up. They were very neat and clean in all respects. Stay inside the law, unless it was official family business. That way, the ZPD can't arrest you for little nitpicky details, like letting a minor drink alcohol. That becomes kind of important later. The bears took me out for a night on the town, to welcome me into adulthood. It was a great night. I was introduced to scotch, which one of the bears explained was what sophisticated mammals of means drank. That first drink damn near killed me too, or it felt like it at the time, like swallowing terrible pungent fire, coughing, and ending up with some of that fire in the nose. which led to more coughing, watering eyes, the laughter of those around, but not the mean kind, not like they were making fun of me, the kind where they've all been there themselves, so they could laugh and slap me on the back, and congratulate me, and then pour me another drink.
That's our scout. Still feeling brave, aren't you, Nicky?
I found myself laughing with them, really laughing, instead of forcing it. And for the first time in years, I was feeling as though there was still some fun to be had in the world. Neveen being gone wasn't such a huge weight on my shoulders, because when I drank, I never thought of her.
Here's to the last drink, with a girl marmalade seasoned.
Which was why I never stopped drinking after that night. And like when I became an enforcer, it was great at first. An outlet. A way to feel a little more like who I had been before everything had come crashing down. That's how it catches you. You know it feels good, until it doesn't. By the time the euphoria stopped, I already need it. And then when feeling good becomes misery, stopping becomes pain. It affected everyone and everything around me. Papa told me more than once that I needed to clean up my act, but I didn't listen. Couldn't really. We fought constantly at this point, or I fought, and he talked calmly back at me, in the way that parents sometimes do. Nicky, you need to stop this drinking. It's no good. You make me sad, Nicky. Your parents wouldn't want this, Nicky. Think of the family, Nicky. And so on. Until I just started to tune him out and drank more. It affected my work in some obvious ways. I became more violent, as angry alcoholics tend to do, which led to some messes for all parties involved. And sometimes I took it too far. And sometimes I was the one who took the beating, and the bears had to step in and save me more than once. I was causing a lot more problems than I was solving. In the end, I'd become the sort of problem that I was sent to solve.
But you didn't stop. Or you couldn't.
Same thing with the same results in the end. Mr. Big became more insistent because he had to, and I was just resistant. It had reached a point where he told me that I had to stop drinking or get out. So I got out. Things went downhill even after that. I had money, of course, my parents' money, which had been silently split between Neveen and I, and the money Papa had paid me as one of his enforcers, which was no small amount. More than enough to allow a pissed off male to break loose on the world, drink himself into a pit, and wallow in that pit for years. The only time I wasn't drunk was when I woke up every morning, and that only lasted until I was able to reach over the vixen I had fucked the night before to grab the bottle. It went along pretty well with my general attitude at that point, not really giving much of a damn about anything. Warm bodies, sweet smells, disposable pleasures. The love 'em and leave 'em idea was my favorite means of seduction, which is a terrible thing for a Todd to do. Find a pretty bitch, convince her that she's the most beautiful creature I've ever seen, take her to some expensive hotel, and be gone by morning. I never thought about them afterward, and even now, I can't remember a single name or a face to attach to a name even if I could. Do I know you?
You don't remember me?
Maybe if you turn around and get on your knees, I might remember you. And I carried on like this for years, getting deeper into the bottle with every passing month. I got into fights regularly, slept with pretty much any vixen who would have me, got thrown out of so many bars that I had to move into a different part of the city just so I could get a drink. Not that it was hard to do, because by that point, I was living out of hotel rooms. Half of the time when I woke up, I didn't remember where I was, or how I had gotten there, or who I had gone there with. Sometimes, I woke up to find I had been robbed. I never cared. Money was as disposable as everything else.
What changed?
Someone knocked some sense into me.
You're lucky your parents aren't here to see you, Wilde.
And because of him, I saw Neveen again for the first time in years. In the news there, amidst the crowd, rising stars in Zootopia politics, going by the name QB, walking alongside the newly elected Mayor Lionheart. She was every bit as bright and full of energy as I remembered before our parents died.
I owe my success to these honorable foxes beside me.
But it was faked. I knew my sister. Every smile she offered the camera, every shy twitch of her ears, as she tried to play herself off as a demure. Even the sway of her tail was timed. All of it rehearsed in the extreme.
That's a lot for a drunk fox to see.
We foxes are proud to add our part in his movement, which from now on will ensure lasting justice to our imminent utopia.
I don't know. It all just seemed wrong. When she started to talk about Lionheart being a force for change in the city, the crowd cheered her passion, her bravery, and I cringed inside, because what I heard was anger, an old anger that I recognized, because it was one of a dozen things I'd been trying to drown in oceans of liquor.
And heartless sex.
And heartless sex. That was when I decided to get control of myself. I failed at first, miserably. Drinking was almost as much a reflexive habit as it was a physical one, for a while. The pain came back, the grief. Fuzzy memories of heartbroken vixens without faces. It drove me back to the bottle a few times before I managed to take control. I watched her for years while I did this, even when she tried to vanish from the public eye as QB. I kept tabs on her through Flash and Mr. Big's sources. Watch a council that she helped elect her to an office that hadn't existed.
Now that I think of it, one of Lionheart's spokesmen withdrew just before the appointment of the administrator. Most people in the city and in the Commonwealth wouldn't even connect that.
Fewer know who she really is. Which made sense given what happened to us, so I decided to do the same. The Wildes were dead, and aside from contacting Mr. Big to let him know that I wasn't passed out in the gutter somewhere anymore, I removed myself from Zootopia entirely. Got myself a nice setup in the Nocturnal District, somewhere I could watch from a distance without being seen, see what my angry sister was planning to do with absolute power. It became clear for those who paid attention that things had silently become darker than they were before. Political figures vanishing, an entire district segregated to allow only one species, the return of things like public assassinations.
Did you care about the changes?
No, I still don't. I care about Mr. Big, but none of the laws or anything else that has happened since Neveen took power has affected him at all, which I'm sure is by design. I worry about my sister, but I'm not going to get in her way. She's family.
Is that why you're helping me? Because Neveen invited me into the city.
When the reporters were asking you if you had protection, I saw her, bright and full of hope, utterly helpless.
Am I helpless?
I think you are brave, but vulnerable. I also think you're the most dangerous mammal in Zootopia as the city is right now, which is why I need to protect you.
Because I'm dangerous.
Because I'm not the only one who knows it.